call, please.
Mr. Ball,
Here.
Mrs. Brew,
Here.
Mr. Babalani,
Here.
Dr. Hayes.
Here.
Mr. Menegini.
Here.
Approval of minutes for the regular meeting of December 7th and the special meeting of December 14th. Any discussion, additions, or corrections? Not that should be a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve minutes, regular meeting of December 7th and the special meeting of December 14th.
Support.
Roll call.
Mrs. Brew,
Yes.
Mr. Babalani,
Yes.
Dr. Hayes.
Yes.
Mr. Menegini.
Yes.
Mr. Ball.
Yep.
Approval of manifest 2015-23 in the amount of $340,640.22. Any discussion? Mrs. Brew?
Yeah, I have a question. Let's see. Page 2, professional service, fourth, and then it says 1/4 training meeting program, 855, that's under public works. And I see it's also under electrical and some of the other ones, and I was wondering, how come, what is that, and why is the electric department funding $1,707.66 towards that?
That is the MyOSHA training requirements for our employees, and we split it up by the departments and how many employees that they have. That's how we do it, right, Mary? Yep. And so that's why the electric has more, because there's some more employees there than, well, hang on a second, because that wouldn't come out quite right. Why don't you let me look into that and get you an answer on that?
Yeah,
Because it's not
the
making.
electric department shouldn't have more people than the.
Right,
the
no,
street department.
and that, we do it by employee, so we just checked on it. We'll get
Yeah.
back to you on that, okay? Yeah.
Any other questions? Mr. Ball?
Page 6, right at the bottom, almost to the bottom page, golf course. 2016 membership or Kurt, $6. If he is no longer on the department, why are we picking up his dues?
Well, I don't know. I'll have to check and see if he even needs to be in. That's a golf course association, I believe. So let me check on that, George. But just so you know, I mean, that fund, those expenses are getting transferred over. So, you know, they're basically picking up those expenses with the revenues that are coming in now. I mean, that whole thing is gonna get transferred over, so. So really, they're picking those up.
Okay. Page 7. I see a number of gas deliveries is, I think I asked this before, why were you, of course, this is the time of year buying the gas because it's so cheap. But if we're in transition on it, why are we, of course,
Well, again, I mean,
Yeah,
they're gonna be
okay.
picking those up,
I
and we have
understand.
work that we still have to
I
complete.
understand it, Ray. Okay, right in the middle, Anderson Tackman and Andrew Gray, is this something, I see this in a number of places. What is wastewater? Could somebody explain this?
That's a meter deposit. When they finalize their utility billing account, it spreads it out to all the funds that, you know, if they have electric, water, and sewer, it spreads the deposit out when it pays their final bill. And those people had a balance left that we owed them money. So it comes out of all those departments that it shared that deposit with.
Okay, so you're paying this back to, what Anderson Tackman, where are they?
They were renting an office here in town on Main Street, and they moved out there.
Oh, okay, okay, man. right out about in the middle of the page, $1,950 for Michigan Department of what? Annual permit fees.
That's our wastewater permit? That's an annual permit?
Okay. And right down on the lower part of that wastewater too, that $7,000, and I see it on the next page is, there's another one for, there's another one someplace. So sewer system improvements, is that part of Ray or of the initial $40,000 that
No,
we
this
were
is,
talking, or
this is part of their original contract. This is work being performed under their original contract.
But this is additional payments?
Right, they're still not completed with their original contract. They're still working on that contract.
So this is something altogether different than the last discussion we've had.
Well, it's
last
the
month.
same contract. What you're gonna discuss tonight
But
is the
different.
addendum to it. Yeah.
And Tricia, that Springwood Valley Ranch, that $1,259.30, I refuse the, okay, that's all.
Mr. McGinney, any questions?
One thing was just pointed out to me and I missed it. On page 3, like the last 12 or 15 items there under the rec department, materials for sign outside City Hall, clear finish, blah, blah, blah. Was that for that Eagle Scout project? I'm
That is
assuming
correct.
That was for, and we paid for that? I mean,
We picked up the
we
materials.
picked up the material, paid the materials for the project?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have.
Mr. Bubba
I got a couple, Doc. On page 5, Joe, down on the bottom of the electric, it says WPPI energy surplus, and then there's parentheses around it like it's a credit, and it says 11/2015. And then if you look on page 6, 11/2015, there's a bill for $49,267. It's both in the same month. We got a credit and a bill?
Yes, we do, because there's some months that we end up producing more power than what we consume. They give us, we pay for what we consume when we're not producing enough energy at the hydro, so we have to buy that. But then on other days during that same billing month, we might be selling back to them, and we don't need everything. So they track it all, and they give us a credit on our bill if we sell back during that billing month.
They track it on a daily basis?
Yes, actually, every 15 minutes it's tracked. Yep, with the meters that are there. We have a real fancy meter at the hydro.
So I mean, there could be numerous bouncing back.
Throughout a billing month, yes, in a day. It could happen 5 times a day, where the loads drop off and the hydro supplies everything we need, and then it might go the other way. And it doesn't. If, like when Multicolor was here, if they fired up a big motor, then that would take extra power and we would purchase it all in the same day. But that's all tracked with the meters. Every 15 minutes it reads it.
Okay. Mary, on the postage, are we with that new billing system? I thought we weren't doing postage. There's some postage on electric, there's postage on a couple of the other utilities. Are we locked into that new billing system where we weren't gonna be paying postage, we were just paying that company?
What's on, what you see here is, this was for mailing the bills in November.
Okay.
For utilities, for postage. We are planning to go live with the bills that go out in February.
Okay. I guess that's all I got, Doc.
The only comment I had was that I was surprised to see Anderson Tackman at town. I have no other questions. We need a motion to pass the manifest.
I make a motion, we approve manifest 2015-23 in the amount of $340,640.22.
Support.
Roll call.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
At this time, anybody from the audience would like to comment on any of the manifest or the minutes or any other agenda item, can do so at this time. If not, you can speak at the end of the meeting. The next will be appointments and presentations. As far as putting people back in their positions, and I guess we don't really have any controversy on any of these appointments tonight. The first is the DDA. Mark Ebling and Bruce Hawkinson have both applied for re-upping their membership. Is there any, would anyone like to make a motion to approve that, or any discussion?
Doc, can I ask a question first? I see you and your wife both are on this DDA. Is there any conflict, or Ms. Carlson, what you see there? Is any problem, legal, what, or?
Oh, there's nothing that prevents a husband and wife from being on a board together, unless they start voting on things that benefit them directly. That would be certainly an issue that would pop up.
I see both her names on, I thought, well, it's worth a question, you know.
Well, Donna had applied last year.
No, I realize
Remember,
that,
and
Doc.
I'm on there now because
I know
of
that.
Virgil being a mayor.
You're automatically on there. I'm sure it wasn't planned, that's the way it turned out.
Any other questions, or is there a motion?
I'll make the motion that Mark Ebling and Bruce Hawkinson be reappointed to the DDA board for a 4-year term expiring in December of 2019.
Support.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
The next is the Park and Recreation Committee. John Beck and Marcia Goldswalk are up for reappointment. Any questions or comments?
One question, it says open after Daryl Harder's name there. That mean one more person
There's
could be
still-
on? Okay.
Yeah, there's still one open seat, and Marcia's a new appointment, and John would be a reappointment. Okay.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we approve John Beck to be reinstated with a term from 1 of 2007 to 1 of 2019, and Marcia Goldswag as a new appointment from 12/2015 to 1/2019.
Support.
Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes. Next to the Jake Mangini Museum Board appointments. Mary Kay Ebling, Lee Mangini, and Bill Van Wogler are up for reappointment. Any comments or discussion? Otherwise, a motion would be in order.
I make a motion, we approve for the Jake Menegini Museum Board, Mary Kay Ebling with a term expiring 1 of 2019, Councilmember Lee Mangini with a term expiring 1/2019, and Bill Van Movelaar with a term 1/2019.
Support, anybody? I'll support that.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Next is the Board of Tax Review appointment. That's Ron Vivio, Darrell Harder, and George Servia. Any questions?
Yeah, Ray, did we advertise for an alternate? Because the last 2 times we had an alternate, and all of a sudden I see we don't have one.
Yeah, we do a general advertisement, and Fred decided not to put in this year.
And nobody else was interested.
Nobody else, no.
But
There were no additional applications. for
Okay,
it.
there is a slot for an alternative now? An alternate?
There could be. I
There
mean,
could
if
be,
somebody was interested, then they could come forward and be an
Okay.
alternate. They need to discuss this quickly, though, because we do have some training. There's some required sessions that Jim holds coming up here in February for sure.
Okay.
January and February, so.
Well, it seems to me we came up with the alternate because we had too many members at one time. It's not really required, or there was
It's
some
not required.
conflict of interest. So, but we are looking for an alternate then?
Yeah, I mean, we have a general advertisement out there, and, I mean, we're not actively pursuing it. We'll leave the application open, you know, if somebody's interested.
Is there a motion to accept the 3 members for reappointment?
I'll make a motion that George Servia, Ron Vivio, and Daryl Harder be reappointed to the 2016 Board of Tax Review.
Support.
Roll call?
Mrs. Brew,
Yes.
Mr. Babalani,
Yes.
Dr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Menegini.
Yes.
Mr. Ball.
Next is the Norway Area Planning Commission appointment. Allison Kalsek, Leonard Beadle III, and that's all that we got there, I guess.
Well, we have
City
actually
council
2
rep.
members of our council are interested, so that's up to the council as to how you want to have that appointment. We have a member of the council represent the council on this board. So both Lee Mangini and Mark Babalani have expressed interest, and so the council will have to I guess, decide you guys, who you want to appoint.
I make a motion to appoint Lee McKinney for the alternate.
I'll support.
Mr. Babalani,
Yes.
Dr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Menegini,
Yes.
Mr. Ball,
Yep.
Mrs. Brew.
Yes.
And that takes care of one position. Now we have to make a motion for Allison Kalsik and Leonard Beadle III. Would anyone like to make that?
I'll make a motion that Leonard Beadle III be reappointed and Allison Kelsek be appointed for a 3-year term to the Norway Area Planning Commission expiring in January of 2019.
Support.
Roll call?
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Next is the Norway Area Zoning Board of Appeals, and for reappointment would be Leonard Beadle III and Jim Timrowski as the alternate. Any comments?
I'm
Questions?
assuming nobody else has applied for any of this, Ray?
No, there are no additional applications.
Somebody willing to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that Len Beadle III be reappointed for the regular seat and Jim Temrowski be reappointed for the alternate seat for a 3-year term.
Support.
Roll call?
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes. Next on the agenda is the 2016 council meeting schedule. Mr. Anderson?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We traditionally have council approve the following year's schedule. We point out the 2 Mondays, or the Mondays in the year that we're going to have a conflict. This year we have 2. It's July 4th, Independence Day. It falls on a Monday, and of course Labor Day, which always falls on a Monday, September 5th. The council has, in the past, when you're the month either preceding or during that month, has 5 Mondays. They've gone to the alternate Monday. In this case, in July, there is no preceding or, 5 Mondays within the month. June has 4 and July have 4. So of course, we're recommending to go to Tuesday, that first Tuesday. But in September, you could go to the 5th Monday in August. August, what is it, 29th. You could go to August 29th if you so choose. Otherwise, you go to the Tuesday, September 6th. Otherwise, other than that, all other first and third Mondays would be active, would be the same.
What is the time of our Quetzalcoatl celebration?
That is actually the August, or June 30th and July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
So it would be over by the 5th then.
Correct.
Any discussion or motion?
I'd just soon move it to the Tuesday on both days.
Is that a motion?
I'll make the motion that 2016 schedule for the regular meetings of the city council, forget that. The July 4th meeting will be canceled and rescheduled for Tuesday, July 5th, and the September 5th meeting will be canceled and rescheduled for Tuesday, September 6th. Okay.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Menigini?
Yes.
Next on the agenda is approval of the Packerland Broadband Master Service Agreement, Addendum 1 and 2. Mr. Anderson?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On this particular item, if you remember back in April, and for the benefit of the new council members, we had decided to approve a master agreement with Packerland Broadband. They are the company that we partner with and service our internet, help support our internet and our video and phone. In that master agreement, it basically handles all of the terms and conditions of our contract with no pricing. And what we did was we agreed to handle all the pricing elements of the contract in addendum form. Under tonight's council agenda item, addendums 1 and 2 are coming up at the conclusion of our master service agreement approval. We wanted to hold off because as part of that approval, there was a technology plan that Packerland, as part of that agreement, performed for us. That plan was completed in late summer, early fall. We went through in detail, back and forth with the plan. The plan is provided for you in your packet and came out with a number of areas of emphasis that we're going to need to address. Following that technology plan, then we finalized, worked to finalize those addendums. Again, addendums are also attached. Under addendum number 1, as I identified in my report, addendum number 1 accounts for paying Packerland Broadband to supply, manage, and maintain a CMTS. That is the piece of equipment which regulates and distributes the internet protocol for the city's cable modems. We, in the spring, looked at purchasing our own CMTS, and it was agreed during budget hearings that due to the cost of the CMTS, roughly about $120,000, that for a system our size, that it made more sense to work with Packerland and contract that service out. Under the terms of this addendum, there is a one-time non-recurring cost of $10,000 that accounts for that $120,000 investment that Packerland had put in place, put that CMTS in. And then, of course, you have your monthly cost for the internet and phone and the telephone-only subscriber. So that accounts for addendum number 1. There's also service item number 2 in addendum number 1, which is what we call our direct internet access, or DIA, which is really your wholesale internet access. which that's the pipe that serves the CMTS and serves your internet. And what we did was we negotiated a cost per bandwidth per megabit, and we got it to at $14 per megabit. So, and one of the back and forths we had was a feature called burstable. That burstable feature allows us to have some flexibility at about 95% rate. So when we start peaking, we can handle, you know, our increased loads in the system. So that's one of our requests for addendum number 1. Addendum number 2 covers the cost for Packerland to host and transport various video cable channels for the system. Again, as with the CMTS, in our budget hearings, some of the purchasing of some of this equipment is costly for a system the size of ours, and so this is a partnering effort that we have, contract effort that we have with Packerland to try and leverage those costs. So we pay a transport fee, you know, for those stations. So you have a monthly recurring cost for digital channels of $5.25 with a setup fee of $5. So that's your addendum number 1 and 2. I went through that quickly, but we can entertain specific questions at this time.
Any questions or discussion from the council?
Well, most of this was Mandarin Chinese to me. I'm not really into this. That's where I miss our past council members, Chris Gottstein and Jeremy Oja, because they were pretty knowledgeable on this. But I pretty much have to go along with the recommendation of staff here.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I guess we're ready for a motion on the Packerland Broadband Master Service Agreement, Addendum 1 and 2.
I make a motion, we approve the PLBB Master Service Agreement, Addendum 1 and 2 for Packerland.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brew,
Yes?
Mr. Babalani,
Yes.
Dr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Menigini,
Yes.
Mr. Ball.
Yep.
Next is the Packerland Broadband Node Split Proposal.
Okay, one of the, again, I mentioned the technology plan. One of the first items of business out of that technology plan is that we noticed the increased loads on a couple of nodes in our system. And what the way that that's set up is that we have 7 nodes in the system, and we have you calculate or you engineer a certain number of customers based on each customer's estimated use for these nodes. And we noticed that under a couple of these nodes, we can do some work to split out the customers within the nodes so that we can increase the efficiency and service for those individual customers. I have a proposal from Packerland provided to have that done. The cost is $4,450, and again, that's you know, that's broken down so that we can give better service to the customers on those 2 particular nodes. Those two particular nodes are nodes 2 and 7. And we also talk about splitting node 3 into 2 parts. Joe, I'm kind of going on here, but you've had some additional conversations if you wanted to add into this.
Well, it's just some of the technical words like node, it's just a group of customers in one area that is collectively put together, and their bandwidth is transported across that one line to get back to the CMTS. So a node would be just a group of people, and there's multiple nodes throughout our system, and the use and congestion has to be split up. And we're just asking for some money to split those nodes up to relieve some congestion so our customers have a good internet experience and don't get slowed down. That's basically what it is.
That's just on this side of town?
Node 3 is
By
up over
Edwards?
in this side of town, which is their biggest node.
Okay.
And that's the one that has the most congestion on that we're going to be splitting. And so I think that my recommendation would be to approve it, just so our customers don't see any slowdown in their internet speeds.
'Cause I thought it was over by Eveling's, back over that way.
Well, Main Street, Node 3, up in here,
It's a high congestion area.
it's our biggest congested area that needs to be split up, so.
If we see a slowdown on the computer, is that usually because of congestion?
It can be because of congestion. We notice it mostly when we hit the peak hours of the evenings, like 8 to 11 o'clock. We see a lot of congestion when a lot of people get home from work, they start streaming video onto their TVs, Netflix, Hulu, that's all the rage nowadays. When the kids come home from college break and all those extra computers are on the system, we see that. And that's one reason why we recommended the peaking feature, or the bursting feature within our bandwidth limits. So when we do have that happen within our system, it'll just go up to whatever it needs to without everybody slowing down. We have that capability now to handle that, so that's the route that we decided we should go with. It'll give everybody a lot better experience, and the internet is definitely where all the growth is going to be in that department.
Any other questions?
Was this a budgeted item, or is this an add-on?
This is an
This
add-on.
is an add-on. This was not a budgeted item. I might say that the cable fund is okay. It's not negative or anything. It's healthy enough to take on a unbudgeted $4,000 item.
Well, remember that coming next budget hearing.
It is important to keep our customers happy, I think, if we're gonna maintain. I noticed that
I agree, Doc.
we lost more customers than we gained last month, at least on the report. So we should try to keep our system the best, I would think, so. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion that the PLBB be approved to conduct node split and segmentation installation for a price not to exceed $4,450.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes,
Next on the agenda is the USDA-RD Project Engineering Amendment. We've discussed this in the past, and we discussed it at our special meeting. Is there any other questions at this time? Or any other discussion?
Did anybody talk to the head office with Mark's suggestions that negotiate a split on this thing, or no?
We went back and forth with Bruce, and Bruce talked with his office, and I think what he needs from the council is, he's provided, the office at Mead and Hunt has provided, in their view, a negotiated proposal from their original amendment, and, it, I think, would be appropriate for the council to decide about his proposal, and then maybe have a counter that go back and discuss with him, what suggestion do we have for them? I think that's what Bruce is asking. So that's what their office is asking.
Mark, what do you, put it in
Well, I think that,
your
Bruce,
ballpark, and
what's that?
I'll put it in your ballpark and see, what your suggestion.
Well, it was, I thought it was like 38,000, Ray, right, correct? Or excuse me, 48, excuse me, 48.
Yeah, because there's an additional $8,000. The original amendment was $40,000, but there's an additional $8,000 of extra cost on the water side. And what he was proposing was to go to $35,000 on the sewer amendment and then drop the $8,000. So it's really, $13,000.
Well, I'm with George, like we talked about at Bruce's meeting, I mean, they drug their feet. And, you know, I know it was extra work for them, so I'm not opposed to giving them some money, but this project has lasted way too long for the engineering. I think it should be split down the middle. The 38 should be cut in two.
Well, I personally, on my own, went and talked to a lawyer at no cost to the city, and he said one word: negotiate.
And I think the council has negotiated if they're taking off 13,000 already.
Well, Lee, would your feelings be for actually starting at 48 and they come down, or willing to settle at 35?
Is this just Mr. Hawkinson talking, or is this their head office?
This is,
Out of Green Bay.
he went back to their head office in Madison with, after the 40,000 was declined, and that's what come out of their head office.
So really, you dropped $8,000 already, right?
Right, that 8,000 wasn't in the original amendment, but that was coming, and so that was their proposal is, see, that, that 8,000 is actually specific extra scope that was added to the engineering on the water side, through, you know, conversations with city staff,
Well-
about the water department.
Really and truthfully, Mike, I agree, you know, my biggest gripe on this thing is the amount of time that they took to do this project, which I think is ridiculous. But they did the work, so what you gonna do? It's in a contract, basically, I don't think if we went anyplace, we would win. So we did the work, you pay them, but, and they dropped to 8,000, but, it's up to the council.
The way that I looked at it and listening to Mr. Hawkinson, it was no fault of the city and it wasn't their fault. And they did do extra work. But I also feel, you know, talking to people, how the project was drug along and everything, and if Lee talked to somebody, I also feel that, we should go back and maybe offer them half of what they want.
Was that half of the original or half of what their counteroffer was? Because they originally would be 48,000, which would be down to 24. And our current is 35. I think Bruce made the statement that it wasn't their fault. You know, a lot of this had to do with the people in Washington or Chicago, or where the people are who decide on what grants we get and what rates we get. And so it wasn't Mead and Hunt's fault. And the fact that they were willing to take out any profit, which surprised me that 8,000 of the 40,000 was profit. So I'm glad we did say no the first time, even though I voted to pay it.
Well, my contention from day one, Doc, and I think everybody agrees with me, it's always like the city has no recourse. It's either the ratepayers or the taxpayers that pay, no matter who screws up, and I'm not saying they screwed up, but no matter what happens, it's always, we're the ones that always get stuck with it. And I'm just sick and tired of it. I say we negotiate more.
I mean, with the delay, like when we talked about when we talked to Bruce, with the delay, the project isn't gonna be complete with all the streets done in 2016. We're gonna be, either have dirt roads in some areas, or, I don't know.
Well, the
It's not gonna
amendment,
be, it's not
the
gonna be
amendment is
finished.
for the plant, that's for phase one,
Yeah?
yeah. So
Oh, okay.
it's not on the phase two side,
It's not on the phase two,
no, it's
okay.
on the phase one side.
Well, it still should have been out for bids long before it has been. I know the government changed the status of what we needed to put in, but he drug his feet, as far as I'm concerned.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we split it in two and give them 24,000.
I'll support.
Dr. Hayes,
No.
Mr. Menegini,
Yes.
Mr. Ball,
Yeah.
Mrs. Brew,
Yes,
Mr. Babalani.
Yes.
Motion passed. Next item on the agenda, AMI project hold release.
Okay, again, at the request of the council, we are bringing this back for council's consideration and giving you a complete report on all the different aspects, bringing back some of the same discussions we had in April when we approved the project. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory, hopefully. I tried to lay this out as much as I could, or as straightforward as I could. I did have an ROI number for you, but I did want you to also take into consideration, this project is really two components. It's the collection side, which is, roughly $100,000 of the project, and the meters, which is the major portion of the project. After having some extensive conversations, especially with the water department, we are definitely going to be in a situation where we're going to be buying meters in the water. Those meters that we have, those Badger meters, are 10 years old, plus they're at their end of life with the batteries, and we're going to need to replace those batteries. We don't have any more on the shelf. We've been replacing them with pretty much everything we had in stock, and so now it's kind of at the crossroads where we're going to be purchasing new meter tops. As I laid out in the report, those meter tops are just north of $200, and basically everybody else in the whole area is going with the iPearl meters. Those meters are $232. So, that's one of the considerations that at least the water department wanted council to consider, is that we're going to be dealing with that. We are also dealing with end of life on our handheld and our collection system. So we're going to have to decide which direction we're going with that. We can bring it along with, I don't know, Joe, if you heard from Nagani or heard from Border States as to whether or not they had those two handhelds still?
Yes, they're in my office. They were delivered on Friday.
Okay, good.
I just don't have a cost for them at this point.
Well, no matter what we do, we need to get a hold of those, because even if we, as we mentioned earlier, this is a 5+ year project with the meters. We know we're going to need to still collect off of some of the old Badger meters. We just don't know when those handhelds are going to give out on us, so I think we needed to put those in our hands anyway. So I guess at this point, I think we'll just have council, you've had a chance to look at the report. Ask any questions you have.
Well, I guess I'll start it off. I know we're gonna be buying the scanners anyway. I don't foresee that we should even be looking at this project until we get the sewer project, the water project, the hydro back running, and the wastewater project. We're $24 million in debt right now. Between the water bond with the water project, that's $2,807,000. The sewer loan is $7,199,000, and there's a $1,154,000 grant. That's going to add another $10 million to our debt without even looking at this project. I know the money isn't going to be debt. It's coming out of some out of the electric fund, and there's correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, 310 coming out of the electric and 440 coming out of the water.
That's really, really close with the communication part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The water fund is not healthy. We heard Mr. Kenny tell us that. And we're going to take that money and we're going to invest it in meters when there's a lot of unknowns that could happen in that water and sewer project. This may be a good project, but I think it may be a good project for down the road. I know we're gonna have to buy meters, but I don't think it's a good project right now. I know when you guys figured it out, the water difference, you took the water metering down at the well site and you subtracted the sales at the window over here. You didn't look at the 200,000 gallons of water that was used for flushing the system, the sewer lines, the ice rink. You didn't take in the factor of the fire department, any water they use, and discount that off of the difference.
You're sure about that?
That's what I was reading in here. I
That's
didn't
not
see
what-
it. I didn't see any of that.
That, the numbers that were given to us by the water department, and the water department did take into account all of the flushing activities. The water department took into account all of those activities you're talking about. Those numbers were given to us by the water
How
department.
about the leakage?
Well, the leakage is,
How are they guessing the leakage that's underground that's not surfaced?
well, you don't know what the leakage is either. I mean,
I
what
know,
we
but I
have to,
think we need the leakage test before we do anything. This is ridiculous to push this forth.
but based on looking at the run activity, and David's here tonight, I mean, we've went through that in excruciating detail. We didn't think, actually, after we've gone through with the water runs that we've had over the last 2 years, that the actual leakage, you know, it's either gonna be at the meter or it's gonna be out in the system. And we do agree that we need to do a leak test. But we think that there's quite a bit that are off of those run data, right?
I just think it makes more sense to take care of the leakage and get the streets under control
I guess, Mark,
before
the
you
only reason
spend
I
the
bring
water
that,
here.
the only reason I bring it up is because what you're saying is that they gave us bad information.
Well, I guess, David, come on up.
I
No
mean,
question, yeah?
I mean, he gave us the information, so we didn't come up with it ourselves.
No, as far as the leaks go, Mark, we don't know that. We're looking at what the well site pumps. You're looking what you're selling. Is the system good? No. We have 22 leaks in 2013 we fixed. How many leaks never surfaced? You have sand, gravel, it's never gonna surface. We had a leak on 13th Avenue that showed up this fall, that was leaking probably a year to 2 years. We knew there was a leak somewhere, and we stopped that when it surfaced. Do we have leaks on Aaron Street, Mine Street, Norway Street? Probably. The mains are only 5 feet in the ground. I don't know what the loss is. There's no way to compute the loss there. As far as what we run when we flush and what our meters are picking up, that's the numbers. I mean, we only use 200,000, say, 500,000 gallons a year that we can account for flushing system.
What would you rather do? Would you rather take, once we get the water and sewer project under control and the waste plant and the hydro, would you rather take money and fix the underground lines or put these meters in? What do you think is going to be more advantageous for the city?
Right now, you're gonna have to do something either way. We need meters. There's no tops left. There's $200 for the tops, Mark. You gotta do something. Is it feasible to get meters? You have to do both. You gotta fix the infrastructure, plus you gotta get meters.
Would you rather fix the infrastructure or put it in the meters?
We need to do a leak detection first and see where we're at. That's a goal. If this project that we're talking about, that we're putting up to you for fixing infrastructure, then we need to do that. But you also need to do the meters. I mean, we're sitting between two things.
Yeah, but you're going for the life on the meters by what they say the meters are run. If they're a 10-year meter, you're relying that all the meters are going to be bad in that 10-year span.
The meters are put in 6-year span. So you got 10, you got.
Yeah, but
you
it
got-
took
you got
us how
10
many
up
years
now.
to get them all put in?
Right, and that's what's gonna be with the same ones that we get in as we're going. You're gonna phase this out in years. You have to, because we're not gonna do it, all the meters at one time. There's no way possible in the city system. Plus, your large meters are gonna cost us more. Large meters are 2 inches, $3,000 to $4,000 per meter. So those are gonna be the expense that you're gonna incur on the large meters. The small meters, they're gonna go where they go.
You only have so much money. Do you want to fix the underground lines or do you want to put new meters on?
That's your decisions.
What would you rather see? The streets fixed with the underground lines so you don't have to dig in the winter? Or would you rather have new meters that might recap 3%?
You gotta fix the infrastructure first, I would say. But the meters are also part of it, Mark.
We only have so much money. What do you want to do?
That's what you guys are here.
Well, I'm asking you. I'm asking you.
Well, I think
That's not my job.
if the meter goes, we gotta replace the meter.
Right.
You don't have a choice. You gotta replace the meter.
But that's what
So
you
for
got.
$232, you put in an iPearl, and for, what was it, $212, you put in a Badger. I mean, that's what we're telling you. The meter is roughly the same price.
You guys are looking at the whole project. What project?
You gotta-
I can't tell you which one to do first.
Well,
You need to look at
well,
all
you
this
are the
thing.
guys that are, you are the guy that's digging out there. What do you want to see? Do you want to see new meters? We only have so much money, one or the other. And we're risking putting up,
I say it would be, we see with infrastructure, you're gonna have to fix, people want streets fixed. So what are you gonna have to do? You're gonna have to do the water sewer project with streets. You're not gonna rip up the street, put a new street surface down, and then we're gonna dig in it? Because we're the first company in this area that digs the new streets in Norway, is the city itself. We're the first ones to rip up the street.
so you would rather have the,
Don't even say that, we ripped up the street and did a sewer project because we missed one, right, George?
Can I ask a question here? Sure. These meters that were, gotta replace, David, $280? You said to replace the meter,
The
that's
meter tops currently, I believe, Joe, is like
They're,
200 and-
they're $218 for just the top that reads,
right.
okay? And that, and that has a 10-year battery life,
yeah.
okay? You still have the same old Badger meter underneath. We can buy the all-new iPearl meter
All right.
for $235, and you get rid of the old brass Badger meter on the bottom that in some cases may be slow, in some cases may be just fine. But you're gonna capture, with the new meter, you are gonna capture 100% of the water that goes through that meter.
The bottom never wears out.
On the Badgers, yes, the bottom wears out because there's a spinning
Yeah,
disc in it.
yeah, yeah.
On the new ones, it's no moving parts.
Right.
It works off magnet
Is there
technology.
any way, question?
Yep.
That we can change these meters and monitor to change the, get the reading over? So we're not putting,
I think I know what you're trying to say, so let me take a stab at it. You're asking about the reading of the meters? And,
right, so we can
Right.
read these meters?
yep,
So we're not paying $280 for a meter for 2, 3, 5 years, and then
and change it out to the other one.
change
Yep.
the whole damn works
So
again.
you have to have the collection system in place. The antennas have to be up, the computer program has to be in, and that has to be up and running. And so the electric utility can afford to buy some electric meters and put those in. That hasn't been an argument here. It's been more about the water side of things.
well, but we don't have the hydro
Yep,
running yet.
I know, but just bear with me here. I'm trying to answer George's question for him. So what happens if we have this new meter top that we just spent $218 on to put on the old meter, it will read in the current system that we currently have. If we change it to a new meter and we don't have the antennas in place, we won't pull that read in, and we'll have to go in every basement to read it. And you're putting a brand-new top on an old meter base in the old system with a 10-year life expectancy. In the new system, you're putting a whole new system in for $24 more with a 20-year battery life in it. We just have to have a way to read them, and you're gonna pick up more usage because it picks up all of the usage, not just a little, some of it.
Regardless, it's
meter.
money that we don't have. Scott Kenny said this fund wasn't healthy enough to, we might have to have a rate increase just to supply the project that we had with the sewer and, or the water rates. We might have to have a rate increase just to take care of the infrastructure. That has nothing to do with
Mark,
this.
you're gonna have a rate increase regardless.
Yeah, but the rate increase might be twice as
Regardless,
much.
You're gonna have a rate increase.
The rate
That-
increase might
you
be
can't
twice as
say
much though, George.
Maybe, you're gonna have a rate increase and it's gonna be big.
Well, I just think that the project should be put on hold until, and
I
change a
can't
few
see-
meters. that we need to change? I mean, we're gonna be $34 million
Spending money,
in debt.
And throwing it away, that's.
We're gonna be
bottom line for
$34
me.
million in debt. When is too much? That's $13,600 per resident. With 2,500 residents, with the water, sewer, and the debt we have, that's $13,600 per resident. I think that's ridiculous.
How many
then
did we
spend it
already
on this.
replace?
Currently, we haven't started.
We haven't replaced any, with the old kind?
Not yet.
Yeah,
We had the old, we had.
you've replaced some of the
we
new
had
ones.
one shelf,
Yeah.
We replaced what we had as we're going. with
Yeah,
what's
so
on
how
shelf.
many did we already replace of these water?
In the last, maybe, this year so far, maybe 10. I can't say exact numbers. I've
Around
not looked.
10?
Around 10,
I would say more than 20 meters a year right now,
20 a year. Okay.
based on when they go. I mean, we didn't put them in, like I said, we started like in
That's what I was just
05,
gonna ask
06,
you.
and then 07,
Okay.
every year we put them in. and
Right,
looked at what
because you
some of
can't say 10 years is a magic number and all of a sudden
No.
they're all gonna go at one time.
No, and that's not what we're saying. We're saying over a period of the next 4 or 5 years, the majority of these meters will need to be replaced. And the proposal was to change the water meters over that same time period, not jump in and borrow money and do this all in one fell swoop, but to do it as we could do it, afford to do it, and as needed. You know, if next year 40 of them go, we're gonna have to replace 40 of them.
So what happens if the leakage tests say that we have another $50,000 worth of lines to change to stop the leakage, and we already continued on this project with these meters? I mean, where are we gonna get that money from?
Well, we're gonna be the ones digging up the street, we're not putting the whole project in. If you got a water leak on this street, big market, we're gonna dig it up. The city crew's gonna.
So if they're just gonna patch the line? You're just gonna,
Yeah.
We'll put a new line from the current main to our shut, we'll rip it up.
so what happens if it's going out to Joe Larson's, that main line, that's the long line that's been there forever? If that line, you're just gonna dig in certain spots and patch it in?
We've done it already, Mark. It's been there since 1952.
Rather than change a couple meters?
It's a 12-inch water main that's probably leaking on the joints, it's lead joint main. There's lead in those mains. It's sand cast. Is there a leak in the joints? I bet there is. In that dirt that we have out there, though, we have red heavy clay, so it surfaces. We've patched in, if you go through there, you'll see the patches on the road. Doc, you drive through that road and going out to your property, you see those patches in the middle of the road. Yes, we've dug there, Mark.
You got a lot of unknowns here with these projects that we have, major projects, and you got a lot of unknown costs that we don't even have a good handle on it yet. And you're gonna spend this money, I can't believe it.
And that's what it's up to our decisions. I mean, I can't.
Lee, do you have any comments?
Yeah, page 3 or 4 in this automated, the AMI project hold, highlights of AMI, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's a dozen items here. I think if this could be put out in the hall someplace where people can read this and understand it, getting the information out to them, I think it'd be pretty much of a no-brainer to go ahead with the project, showing your advantages and some disadvantages to the system.
Why couldn't we put it on our TV?
You can do that too, but we seem to have trouble through the years getting the proper information out to the public.
Mrs. Brew, any comments?
Yeah, I also would like to see this put on hold. I like to see the water leaks, what we got in water leaks and, see where we're at. Then it doesn't make sense until, I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse here. Putting these meters in, we don't even know where the leaks are. I don't believe every meter is gonna go at one time. It took 6 years to put them in, so they're probably not gonna go at one time. And I would think it would be more feasible to go into the budget and take, if we do 20 a year, we do 20 a year. But it ain't like taking 700 and some thousand out of the budget. And I think it's gonna reflect back on the people. They're gonna see it in their bills.
That's how we planned the project when it came to the meters, is that we have a 5+ year project to install the meters. The only difference is that the $100,000 for the collection needed to be put in place. So when we put the first meter in, it can be read. And you already spent the $100,000, today.
But the poles and some of that stuff,
What would it cost to finish the collection, so when we put these meters in, we can read them right away. To get that part of the project done.
I wasn't prepared to answer that specific question.
You still
I
have
didn't
to
break
go-
it down
Rough
that way.
estimate,
But,
Joe, you don't
yeah,
have to go to pennies.
if you want a ballpark off the top of my head, it's gonna be in that $40,000 range.
And I think that's high.
You think that's
Because
high?
you already spent
Okay.
70-plus thousand.
Yeah.
The total
And
is
I'm just going by,
105.
there's 320, 340.
That would be worst case.
Yeah, 104 was the collection system.
You still have to go out and read the other meters that are still installed.
Yes, we do.
We understand that, but the majority of the project, like I was saying, we budgeted that over a 5-plus year period.
Well, what we
So
spent-
knowing we can't afford, you know,
What we
to do them
spent
all
so
at once.
far is $97,152. That's what it would cost us to get out of that contract. We could reuse the poles. That was $20,000 for the poles. We still have $631,216 on the project to pay.
That's to complete the project, Mike. Don't get the figures confused. That's when the project is all done. You're not
6 years from
telling you, they're not gonna do it all in one shot.
You're still ordering the stuff and you're still getting the stuff in here. You still have to pay for those things, George. You can't just order them and,
But they're ordering what as they need them.
That,
They're
That's a-
not ordering the complete package and have them sitting on the shelf.
they're gonna put them in as they get them.
Exactly.
I don't understand it. With the major projects that we got, why we'd even be looking at this right now until we get a handle on every utility we have other than the internet, the phone, and the
You'll never
TV
live long enough
is
to
in
get a handle
shambles.
on everything that
Is
you
in
want to do.
shambles.
with
We're not gonna
this
get it by $35 million in debt next year, I'll tell you that.
And you say you're just gonna take a little bit out at a time. We already got almost 100,000 into it. That's not a little bit.
and that was all budgeted in last fiscal year.
Can you? What you do?
And-
You can't get that, you can't get to 70.
And there's
It doesn't sound like
$100,000
it.
in the current budget for this coming up fiscal year, and another 100 after that in the electric department.
So right now you have enough to start putting the meters
Yeah,
in. You don't
with
need
no-
anything else,
with-
no more
with-
money spent this
with-
year.
With no effect, I got $30,000 in the budget to buy some meters in the electric, to start putting some electric meters in.
Okay, that's 150, almost, well, 130,000
Yeah, and that's what I have budgeted for
per
this year.
year.
I have 100 after.
it's budgeted, doesn't mean we
I
have to
know,
spend it right now.
I'm answering the questions. Then I have 100 every year after that until the project is done in the electric. Under the current rate structure that is outlined with the rates as is. Now, the water department, because the water department fund took the hit 2 years ago with the major freeze, I budgeted $80,000. Now, that can always be pulled back. Don't have to spend 80. I could spend 10 to buy meters to replace the old ones as they go, or I could buy $40,000 worth of meters and replace some. But at least you have the backbone and infrastructure in place that when the water department needs it, it's there and all they have to do is replace the meter and it starts working. You got to do the electric first and get the communications up, and then let us work with the electric end of it as we need the meters. And if you don't need no meters that year, if something pops up, we don't do any meters that year. It's all up to how we manage the project.
And then I see you've got, your numbers here for the savings
Yeah,
of yearly $46,605.
Mm-hmm.
You guarantee that after this project's done, we're gonna save that every year?
those are pretty damn conservative numbers, yes. I had higher numbers in the beginning, but then as David and I spent a lot of time together crunching the water losses, when we first started the conversation, we were at 86 million gallons of water lost in our system in a year, from what we pumped to what we sold.
Joe.
Yep. Let me finish, okay? 86 million. Then David and I got together and I said, let's identify every area that we use water, including a fire at a home. So for the fiscal year of 14-15, there were no fires at any homes. We identified the ice rink. We identified the 4 bleeders that you have on your system for turning on those 3/4 inch bleeders on the end of the dead ends. there's 15,500,000 gallons of water calculated to be put out in a 3-month period when you turn those bleeders on so the mains don't freeze. So by the time we got done identifying all the areas, and there's many of them, it's in your memo, I came down to 22 million gallons of water that I cannot account for in the system. Now, some of that is from meters, and some of that is from leaks in the system. We don't know. So,
22 million gallons?
22 million gallons.
Well, even if some of it is leaks, then customers better start saving their pennies, because if we put these new meters in,
Your bills might go up. That is correct. That is an absolute correct statement. Yes. Because we're going to be metering
Mary,
all of the water usage.
Mary, what do you think? Do you think that, what do you think the loss in the meter rate's gonna be? What do you think the gain that we're
Well,
losing?
I went over these numbers with Joe and David identified all the areas, but I think you have to, if you asked me the same question you asked David, I'd say, you can't afford to do both projects, then you don't do the infrastructure, because if your meters aren't working, you're not gonna have any revenue. Your meters have to be working, we're not gonna bill it for anything. So we've gotta decide what we're doing with the meters, because they have to work. I understand we've gotta identify the leaks and we've gotta address them, but you've gotta decide one way or the other on the meters, because we have to make sure they work, or you're not gonna have any revenue.
But I mean, do you think the meters wouldn't be working, we would be changing, like Candy said, we would be changing a couple that we thought we were having some problems with? We're not going out and changing them all.
Correct, but as they start stopping in the next 5 years, if we're gonna go forward with the AMI, then you need to be replacing them with the iPearl meters now, rather than, like George said, putting in the $212 meter that you're gonna be replacing with the $230 meter in the next 5 years. You don't wanna be putting that money into a meter that you're not gonna leave in there. But if the meters aren't working, it's not gonna matter how much water's out there leaking, because you're not gonna be billing for anything.
Well, you can pretty much tell how much water a house is using.
Oh, and we do that every month. I mean, we look every month for meters that stop. We do that every single month, and if somebody averages 5,000 and all of a sudden they're down to 1 or nothing, we send the guys out. Because those meters stop. Or those batteries,
The batteries went
the
bad.
batteries quit, so the meter isn't registering anything. We do that every month when we do our audit report after they read. We go through it with a fine tooth comb.
I mean, I'm not saying that you're not fixing the meters that aren't working. I'm saying fix the few meters that are not working. I don't believe, like Candy said, you're gonna be changing that many.
Oh, I
Until
don't-
we get this other project done, these other projects under control, then it might be a good thing to get this metering project done. But you're gonna get a better rate on your asphalting, you're gonna get your infrastructure fixed, you're not gonna have all the seams and patching the asphalt on the cross streets down the road.
And I think that's the decision the council has to make, because we started going down this road of the AMI system for different reasons also, such as time of use rates.
Yes.
We wanted to be able to offer that to the households. If you don't wanna do that, then we don't have to do that. But that was kind of, I think that might have been the very first thing that we started talking
That
about
was the big driver
originally.
that started researching what we can do to offer that service.
Do you
And then
really
evolved
think that-
into this.
Do you really think the senior citizens are gonna get up in the middle of the night in non-peak time and use their power then?
No, but we had business customers that were very much communicating with the council at the time that they wanted time of use rates.
You're right, we had them, they're gone.
No.
A lot of them are gone. The multicolor was the
That was a
major
totally
water
separate-
user and power, and they're gone, Ray. Kiss them goodbye, they're not coming back.
Okay, Mark. But we have other customers that were asking for those rates, not just multicolor.
and I also have concern with, the sewer and the water project getting done, because as I look at that, as Bruce was explaining that, we're doing the roads going down one way, we never added in going on the crossroads. And if you got them guys in town doing that way, wouldn't it make sense to take your money and go the other way with that?
Right, but your water department isn't gonna pay for that. That's gonna have to come out of the road funding, so it's gonna come out of a different fund.
Well, the water project ain't paying for all of this either, the electric department is.
Right, but when we look at what he calls the non-eligible costs, which are those avenues, and even some of the curbing, we don't know exactly what they're gonna consider non-eligible. Our road fund, major and local is gonna have to take a look. you know, at how we can fund some of those non-eligible costs. Because it's not gonna be able to come out of the water fund at that point.
Well, I'm just stating that, I don't think it's a bad project, and I realize that we have to get something done here. I would like to see it tabled until we've seen the leaks, but that's up to everybody else here.
Well, I've been very interested in this conversation tonight, hearing Mr. Ball's comments and Mr. Pickard's comments and Mary's comments too. I think have all persuaded me that we need to go ahead with this project. We have to put money into our meters over the next 5 years. The battery life on the old ones is 10 years. We started 10 years ago. They're going to start to go. I'd rather put the same money into a whole new meter. We've already spent $100,000. We don't want to throw that away. So I'll make a motion that we proceed with the AMI.
I'll support.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
No,
Mr. Babalani?
No?
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
You know, can have addresses from the audience. Anybody in the audience like to make any comments on tonight's meeting or any subject matter they wish to discuss? Please come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
In our last budget discussions, we were going through some of the cable stuff, they talked about the possibility of TV anywhere, or something of that nature. And for your background and addendums, was that addressed in any of these, trying to add something like that, or pricing?
No, that's not actually in the addendum. That has to be done, we have to get a hold of the NCTC and get that fired up. I've asked Jim to do that. He's had some other things on his plate. So we've been working to get that. We do want to have that available though by March if we could, because that's when we get a lot of requests with Final Four coming up and there's lots of things.
Thank you, Mr. Oja. Anybody else in the audience like to make any comments? It's not time for council comments.
yes, last meeting I thanked everybody for the nice Christmas parade and everything, and I did forget to thank the fire department for the nice fireworks display. It was really nice. And Merry Christmas to everybody.
Mr. Ball?
Yeah. I've been on the council for almost as long as Doc, almost. And I come up with the decision to retire. So this will be my last meeting. I'll have my resignation in this coming week sometime. I really enjoyed it. I thank the people for the support they all give me. And I would really encourage people to run for the office. I had fun. I had a lot of pride in that. And you don't get harassed at home, which many of you might think. If I got 4 calls a year, it was a lot. So if you go and you ask for your own troubles, if you want to out there. But I thoroughly enjoy it, but it got to be a job, and I have a hard time explaining myself. It was inverse. So I'll, that I resign. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ball, but I think you should reconsider.
I totally enjoyed it, Doc. And my heart is always in it. But when it gets it ain't fun doing, then it's working. It's my own decision, nobody else's. My wife even asked me if I'm making the right. That's it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Babalani, any comments?
Well, the only other thing that I'd like to say, I'd like to thank George for all his work, and I hate to see him go. And I requested the manager and the utility director to put in our packets 4 times now that what they've been working on, so I could see it. I know he's been working on the water sewer meter project, but I'd like to see that in the packet.
Mr. Mendini?
Yes, first of all, I hate to see George go. I probably disagreed with him as much as anybody, maybe not more, but I really hate to see him go. And maybe a lot of people don't know it, but George is my brother-in-law, but he was my friend a long time before he was my brother-in-law, long time. Okay, 2 things I have here. Again, I wish everyone a happy Merry Christmas. I think we're allowed to say Merry Christmas yet, aren't we? Sometimes I wonder out there. And I see this past week that House Bill number 5205 was introduced last week by Representative McBroom to designate a portion of US 2 as the Kenneth J. Maraska Memorial Highway running through Norway. This isn't going to cost the city anything. We passed that here a while back for it, and the family of Kenny has decided they will pay for the signs, and that's all it is. So once this goes through, basically from city limit to city limit, I believe it is, Ray?
Yeah.
It'll be the Kenneth J. Maraska Memorial. And for those of you that don't know it, Kenny was an officer that was killed in 1971. And my dad, my dad was chief of police. And he was there waiting at 6:30 on that morning. And I think he took that to the grave with him, as to not knowing what, if he could have done something. That's all.
Thank you. I'd first like to ask Mr. Pickard, has the hydro been able to take advantage of the 3 inches of rain that we got last week?
Well, unit number 1 was not operating at full capacity. It is now. Unit number 4 is operating at full capacity, and we are spilling water. The 24-foot Tanner gate, which is our largest gate, is 6 feet out of the water. So we're spilling about 1,200 cubic feet a second of water. Obviously, if the other 2 machines would be operational, we'd be in better shape as far as production goes. But we are supplying all the needs of the city of Norway with the 2 machines that we have. The weather's been good. It hasn't super cold, so loads have been down. And in fact, we're even selling back power in the evenings. So
Is there any hint at when the other 2 machines will be available?
I'm going, tomorrow morning, I'm going to go inspect the number 3 runner that's being repaired. I made a phone call this morning to see where it was at, because a decision needs to be made if we need to work overtime on it to get it in. I have to check with We Energies. I want to see where the reservoir levels are at. I heard a comment that the reservoirs are full, but that wasn't from someone that was from We Energies. That was just in passing that they heard that.
Let's hope they're full.
If that's true that they are full, the water for the remainder of the winter will be very good, and we should try to get that unit back in place. But I want to evaluate the cost of putting in the overtime versus the cost of selling the power, what we're going to get, and see which one outweighs the other to make a decision for you. But I'll start working on that tomorrow morning. The runner, the end of the blade tips are tacked in place. We're going to start welding them up tomorrow, and then it has to be machined. So I'll get a time frame on it, and I can, next council meeting, I can give you a real good report on where we're at, and also tell you about whether I think we should ramp it up or not. That decision might even come before the next council meeting with talking with Ray.
Chances are we won't get 3 inches of rain again this year.
Probably not. I don't think so, but
I'd also like to comment, I did some traveling this weekend for the annual Christmas bird count, and I was impressed with all the signs that I saw up to the city of Norway. I think they look good. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Ball for his years of service. We were at odds, but I appreciate his dedicated and hard work for the council all those years. I also appreciate Mr. Babalani's passion for this, getting the budget in order, but I honestly believe that we need to do something for the metering, and it's better to plan ahead. We got 5 years for this changeover. It's better to start now since we've got the $100,000 invested. Mary's comments, I think, were the critical part there, and Dave Ball's were critical in my decision. I'd also like to say that I'd like to apologize to the Recreation Committee. I'm on that committee, and I have missed a number of meetings with conflicts and being out of town, but I would like them to reconsider, and I would hopefully make the next meeting, their decision to keep applying for Strawberry Lake funds. Again, I think one of the biggest assets, or one of the biggest problems we're facing now, or not one of the biggest problems, one of the problems we're facing is the fencing of the old mine pits on Norway Hill. And to just throw money at a project like that and get nothing out of it except to make a happy mine inspector, to me, makes no sense. I think we need to get a project that turns that area, which is basically a forgotten area, part of town, into something that the community can be proud of. I've been through there as a child and as a man, and I would certainly invite the public. Maybe we can take a walking tour there at some time and see the area and see what should be done. But I think that we need to put some effort into rehabilitating the area and not just throw money at it. It's a beautiful area. There's a lot up there, and there's a great need for recreation. So I think we need to really look at that area and put it into a project of some kind, whether it's brownfield or whether it's recreation or a combination of different funds. But we don't want to make that a money pit and just throw money at it. I think we need to get something out of it, make it into a good recreational area. Any comments from Mr. Pickard?
no, I have no further comments.
Mr. Carlson?
Very briefly tonight, Doc. I wanted to express my appreciation to Ms. Kranz and the Norway Vulcan staff. Attended the Christmas program up there today. And it's always reminds you and brings you back to your childhood memories when you see all the kids dressed up and singing Christmas carols. And very proud of our local facilities here at the Norway Vulcan schools. We have one of the best performing arts centers in the UP, and it's something we should all be proud of. Also, I wanted to echo everybody's sentiments and comments on George. George, it's always been a pleasure to sit here. I feel like I have the best seat in the house. You've always had insightful and sometimes entertaining commentary on your views and suggestions throughout council meetings, and I've always felt as though I've had the pleasure of being able to observe and be a part of this. And for that, I thank you. The community thanks you for your years of service. It's some people I don't think understand the extent by which some of our community service members go into the amount of time and effort that goes into this. And you're an example of a person that's dedicated much of his life to doing that. So I do appreciate that. For the council's sake, I did notice, and I don't know if you've seen in my billings, the prosecution for the city of Norway has been down dramatically for the last few months, which I do commend our citizens for following the laws, and I hope that it continues throughout the Christmas season and the New Year holiday. Everybody be safe, and Merry Christmas.
Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, I'll start with Merry Christmas, but I can't help but make some comments. George, I started in 1999 with the city, and in 2001, George, you came back to the council, That was 2 years without you. Then midway through there was another 2 years where we missed each other. But my career has had you on the council. And I think we had a good talk the other day, and I think it was striking when you and I, we talked and you said, boy, we can butt heads, but we have the city's interest at heart, and we always came to a understanding. And I think that's what it's all about. Whether we have disagreements up here, I think that's what it's about, to be able to have these discussions and move on. And George, you've been a champion with that, and I really appreciate, through my career so far here with the city, you've been a big part of it. I'm gonna miss you. You're my neighbor, so I'm coming over to the garage sometime. But I really appreciate it, more than you can tell.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, that's all I have.
I also would like to thank George, since I didn't get a chance to say anything because I had my comments beforehand. But thank you, George, for your years of service.
With that, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Support.
Roll call.
Mrs. Brew.
Yes.
Mr. Babalani.
Yes.
Dr. Hayes.
Yes.
Mr. Menegini.
Yes.
And Mr. Ball.
Yes.
For the last time.